Sydney to London is 9,100 nautical miles. There is no aircraft on Earth that can fly that distance with a full passenger load. So Qantas built one that doesn't carry a full passenger load and called the missing seats a luxury decision. The Airbus A350-1000 is one of the largest twin-engine jets in commercial service. British Airways configures it with 331 seats. Cathay Pacific fits 334. The Qantas Project Sunrise version carries 238. Those 92 missing seats are not a comfort decision. They are the weight budget for the extra fuel that makes the distance possible. Every seat Qantas didn't install is a kilogram of fuel capacity it got instead. The aircraft doesn't have fewer seats because Qantas wants passengers to be more comfortable. It has fewer seats because the physics of the route demanded it. This is the impossible math behind the world's longest flight. Subscribe if you want to understand why the most ambitious commercial aviation program in a generation looks, from the outside, like a normal aircraft, and why every visible decision about what's inside it was made by the laws of physics first and the marketing team second. The Kangaroo Route, the name Australians have given the link between Australia and the United Kingdom, launched on December 1st, 1947. Qantas used a Lockheed L749 Constellation. The journey from Sydney to London took 5 days and required multiple stops. By 1980, it had been reduced to around 24 hours with one stop. By 2024, the fastest one-stop routing via Singapore takes approximately 22 hours gate to gate, including the stopover. Qantas announced Project Sunrise in 2017, the ambition to fly from Australia's east coast to London and New York without stopping at all. The target aircraft didn't exist yet. The route's physics had never been solved at commercial scale. The project spent the next decade being studied, delayed, refined, and eventually ordered. On June 17, 2026, the first aircraft, named Vega, was unveiled at the Airbus facility in Toulouse in Qantas livery. Commercial service begins October 2027. The route is 9,100 nautical miles, up to 21 hours in the air, the world's longest scheduled commercial flight by a significant margin. Here is what it takes to fly that far. The standard Airbus A350-1000 carries approximately 158,000 liters of fuel in its wing tanks and a standard center tank. That is enough for very long routes: Doha to Auckland, Singapore to New York, London to Perth. But not enough for Sydney to London. Airbus modified the aircraft specifically for Project Sunrise by installing a rear center tank. The new tank adds 20,000 liters of additional fuel capacity, bringing the total to approximately 168,000 liters, or 130,700 kilograms by weight. The aircraft now carries more fuel than most smaller jets can carry in their entire structural weight. To support that fuel mass, the aircraft's maximum takeoff weight was increased to 322 tons. The wing box, the structural core where the wings meet the fuselage, was reinforced to handle loads it was not originally designed to bear. The landing gear was recalibrated for the higher ground weight. Airbus also designed taller wingtips that reduce aerodynamic drag and improve fuel efficiency. The aircraft that looks like a normal A350 from the outside is structurally different from any A350 that has come before it. But here is where the impossible math becomes most visible. Adding fuel adds weight. Weight is what the aircraft is spending its entire range fighting against. Every kilogram of fuel in the rear center tank is a kilogram that the engines must lift off the runway and carry southward and then northward for 21 hours. The more fuel you add, the heavier the aircraft, the more fuel it burns carrying that fuel, which means you need more fuel to carry the fuel. Aviation engineers call this the Breguet range equation, the mathematical relationship between fuel weight, aircraft weight, engine efficiency, and distance. At the scale of Project Sunrise, the equation becomes brutal. The aircraft departs Sydney weighing 322 tons. By the time it lands in London, it has burned the majority of that fuel. But not before every kilogram of fuel has been paying its own way in additional fuel burn to carry it. Something had to give. The something was seats. And not just seats. Every kilogram of optional weight was evaluated. Galleys were repositioned. Lavatory count was reviewed. Cabin materials were selected by weight as much as by aesthetics. The 238-seat configuration is the lightest cabin that Qantas determined could still generate the revenue the route needs to be commercially viable. The economics of those 238 seats are brutal by any conventional measure. More than 40% of the seats on the aircraft are in premium cabins. 6 first suites, 52 business suites, 40 premium economy seats, and 140 economy seats. The first suite configuration at 6 seats is one of the smallest premium cabin counts on any widebody in commercial service. But each of those 6 seats must generate revenue that justifies the existence of the seat in an aircraft where every seat costs significantly more per passenger to operate than on a conventional long-haul flight. A standard long-haul A350-1000 spreads the fixed costs of fuel, crew, maintenance, and airport fees across 330 passengers. The Project Sunrise version spreads those same costs, plus the additional costs of extra fuel, reinforced structure, and the engineering premium of the ULR modifications, across 238. The cost per available seat mile is significantly higher. Every individual seat must generate proportionally more revenue just to reach break-even. A full economy ticket on Project Sunrise cannot be priced like an economy ticket on a conventional long-haul flight. The aircraft cannot afford it. There is one more consequence of the weight equation that Qantas has acknowledged quietly. On days when the aircraft faces significant headwinds on the Sydney to London routing, particularly across the Indian Ocean and into European jet streams, the fuel burn increases. In some operating conditions, Qantas may need to leave seats unsold not because there's no demand, but because filling every seat would push the aircraft's weight past the performance margins the route requires. The world's most ambitious commercial flight may occasionally carry fewer than 238 paying passengers, not because Qantas couldn't fill them, but because the wind didn't cooperate. Can a human body survive 21 hours in an aircraft? Drop it below and subscribe. Qantas is not the first airline to worry about this question, but it is the first to build an entire aircraft program around answering it seriously. The airline partnered with researchers at the University of Sydney's Charles Perkins Centre, a medical research institute focused on obesity, diabetes, and metabolic disease, specifically to study what 20-hour flights do to human physiology and what design interventions could mitigate the damage. The cabin lighting system operates on 12 scenes, including sunrise, sunset, and awake modes, designed around circadian rhythm science to help passengers shift to destination time zones during the flight rather than after landing. The meal service timing has been redesigned around the scientific recommendations from the research partnership. Food is served when the body is best able to metabolize it and reset its internal clock, not when it is most convenient for the cabin crew schedule. Researchers involved in the program reported that passengers exposed to the revised lighting and meal schedules demonstrated improved alertness compared to those following traditional long-haul routines. The Wellbeing Zone, a dedicated space built between the premium economy and economy cabins, is the most visible expression of this research. Sculpted wall panels with integrated stretch handles, a guided on-screen movement program, a hydration station, a selection of refreshments. It is available to all 238 passengers regardless of cabin class. Qantas describes it as the first purpose-built in-flight wellness space in commercial aviation. The more precise description is that it is the acknowledgement that the physical limit of the human body is exactly as hard a constraint as the fuel limit of the aircraft. The aircraft cannot fly further than its fuel allows. The passenger cannot sit for longer than their physiology allows without intervention. Both limits were binding at 1947 distances. Both limits have been moved incrementally by engineering, research, and material science, until 2027 became the year when Sydney to London became possible without stopping. The crew problem is as hard as the passenger problem. A 21-hour flight requires pilots to rest during the flight. A standard twin-engine commercial flight operated by 2 pilots, a captain and a first officer, can legally fly for up to 13 hours before requiring rest. Project Sunrise will be operated with multiple crew members, including relief pilots who rest in dedicated crew rest facilities while the active crew manages the aircraft. The logistics of scheduling, certifying, and managing multiple crew members on a single flight adds operational complexity that Qantas has spent years planning. The crew rest facilities on the aircraft are not optional amenities. They are the legal and operational mechanism that allows the flight to be conducted within the regulatory framework that governs commercial aviation. Without them, the flight cannot happen. There is also the question of medical emergencies. On a standard long-haul flight, the aircraft is almost always within a few hours of a suitable diversion airport. Sydney to London over the Indian Ocean and through the Middle East is not. There are stretches of the route where the nearest suitable airport for an emergency diversion is 3 or 4 hours away. Qantas has designed operational protocols for managing medical situations on flights where diversion is a slow and expensive option. The aircraft carries enhanced medical equipment. The cabin crew training for Project Sunrise includes specific ultra-long-haul medical response protocols. When a passenger has a medical event 30,000 feet over the Indian Ocean at hour 14 of a 21-hour flight, the response is different from a medical event on a 5-hour domestic service. The ground operations at both ends are also unlike conventional long-haul turnarounds. An aircraft that has just flown for 21 hours arrives with fuel depleted, cabin thoroughly used, and mechanical systems that have been operating continuously for an unprecedented duration. The maintenance inspection requirements after an ultra-long-haul flight are different from those after a shorter service. The cabin cleaning, restocking, and preparation for the return flight must be completed within the ground time available to maintain the daily schedule. Qantas and Heathrow Airport have been coordinating on gate capacity, maintenance infrastructure, and turnaround logistics for years to make the Sydney operations work at both ends. The first aircraft, Vega, is delivered in April 2027. Commercial service begins in October 2027, with tickets going on sale in February of that year. 12 aircraft will eventually join the fleet, enough for daily non-stop service between Sydney and London and, eventually, Sydney and New York. The Kangaroo route took 5 days in 1947. 80 years later, it takes 21 hours. The impossible math is not that the aircraft can reach London. It is that every single design decision, the 92 missing seats, the rear center tank, the reinforced wing box, the circadian lighting, the Wellbeing Zone, exists because the route was physically impossible for every aircraft that came before this one. The aircraft that Qantas is about to operate doesn't look extraordinary from the outside. It looks like an A350. The extraordinary part is that the engineers made the impossible math add up. Drop a like if you didn't know about the missing seats before this video.